here every Wednesday at noon to discuss a new political topic. I have to admit, this one maybe isn't new. We did do a Epstein Files Part 1 last semester when the first kind of big batch of files came out. And unfortunately, there were millions more that we are now subjected to. So I just really wanted to start off today by saying it's easy for us when we're in these circles and these kind of fields of study to very easily separate politics from kind of traumatic events such as this one. So I wanted to open with a quote from just kind of about the victims' experiences, just to remind us to be kind of intentional. And of course we can address the politics and like the controversial figures, but I think it's important to remember what the Epstein Files really entail and what they're about. Accuser Anusaka Georgiou summarized the alleged victim's experiences in her statement, reasoning, "Something I think is very important to communicate is that loss of innocence, trust, and joy that is not recoverable. The abuse spanning several years, the devaluing beyond measure, and affected my ability to form and maintain healthy relationships, both in my work and my personal life. He cannot begin to fathom what he took from us." So, we had some, I guess, interesting news we could start with. We can start wherever. I found it interesting was Bill and Hillary are going to have to testify in front of that congressional hearing. The process of getting there was very interesting. He's the first, I believe, former president or president to do so since Gerald Ford in '83. Yes. So, I don't know. Let me know y'all's thoughts on that, and keep it nice and respectful.
Okay, so before we get started, I want to reiterate we are live streaming to our YouTube channel, and you can always check this out there and check out previous discussions if you want to take a look. And again, we have the, whatever it's called, the electronic sign-in.
Yeah.
Please make sure you do that. But in addition, in a few minutes, I will be passing around a plain old paper sign-in sheet. The benefit of this one is next to your name, you can add a faculty name, and I will add, and for our people online, that's what it looks like. I will add, if you add a faculty name, I will contact that faculty member, and this will verify your attendance, and so you can bug your faculty member for extra credit. Can't guarantee that you get it, but this will verify your attendance. So, where do we start? There's what, 3 million new documents, and everybody under the sun. Literally, by the way, Forrest Gump is mentioned in the Epstein Files. That's absolutely true. Okay. Who? Okay, yeah.
We're not talking about that, but he's mentioned it, dude. He's in it.
So, what are we talking about? Who wants to jump in?
There's 3 million to pick from, guys.
I think it's really messed up how like desensitized we've all come to this. It's just partly probably because of coping, because this is a horrific thing that's happened to God knows how many victims there are out there that haven't even come out yet. So I think it's partly coping, it's partly social media. We run through an idea or a topic way faster than we have ever before. There's already like AI slop of it. I think it's kind of disturbing, and it's a symptom of like society at large on like how we process information, and it's going to have an impact on the politics of this whole situation because there's people already like being desensitized to it. I mean, you see on like the far right, like Nick Fuentes is like wearing Jeffrey Epstein merch when like he was like used to be the guy that was like who released the files or whatever. He's a Fed anyways, but the point is that like people are being like are almost okay with it at this point. It's kind of just like something that's happened and like and then people move on, and I think that's a really bad thing.
Yeah, no, seriously, like I feel like there should be way more outrage. Like I see it online, like on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, stuff like that. I see people talking about it and people are angry. But like on the level of like, I guess you could say more of like mainstream media, you don't see it at all. Like when the things first came out, I got alerted by my friend telling me this. It's like, have you seen the files got dropped? I'm like, no. because no website was talking about it. People were just talking about random, everyday stuff. I'm like, this is a very big issue and no one's talking about it. And he's right about saying too that like I guess it is a form of desensitization, because I feel like that if this happened 10, 15 years ago where it broke the way it was, this would have been just everywhere. But I don't see it. I don't think anything's really going to even happen now. Like no one's like, I don't think anyone's even going to get arrested or any repercussions of this. It feels like it's just going to get swept under the rug and we're going to move on with our lives. It's just, but it shouldn't. For how big and major this is, we should focus more on this, but it doesn't seem like it's going to happen.
I feel like that's also kind of intentional, and is a reason they're being dropped in such large batches is to kind of berate us with information and a mass amount of information to kind of not allow us to really understand what's happening, and to create so many people, like we're pointing out so many people in these 3 million files, that it's so hard to focus in on one thing. And I think that's like a fully intentional aspect of why the files are getting dropped the way that they are.
Yeah, sometimes that is. I mean, governments will do that. Sometimes it's crowding with so much information. Another technique, I'll say, is timing. Very often, when somebody wants to release information that they don't really want to release, they'll do it on a Friday before a weekend, so that it gets less coverage, for example. But it's possible that that's the case. Yeah.
I back you up on the fact that the nation kind of has like a sweep it under the rug attitude. I saw this video online. I was just scrolling, and I'm not sure the woman's name, but she's a reporter for CNN, and she was asking Trump about the victims and their stories and his response to it all, and he blatantly dismissed her, and he said that the country should really get on with something else. Yeah. And then started telling how she's the most awful reporter he's ever seen. His statements were not just untruthful. So I think for our leader to say we need to move on to something else, I mean, if he can have that disposition about it, and so many people follow him like the way they do, who's to say like the nation as a whole isn't going to be like, well, like we're already doing. I just think if our leaders can't treat this as dire as it is, then how is it going to receive the correct recommendations or attention? It's crazy that 20-year-olds, Gen Z, and of course other ages and generations, but it's crazy that we seem to have a bit more intellect on the matter than our leaders do.
Yeah, and you're right that there is at least a certain, maybe a great deal of desensitization going on, because I can think of, this is certainly not the first scandal of its kind. I can remember way back into the 1980s when there was believe it or not, I can remember back into the 1980s, when there was a scandal, we don't even use that word anymore, I don't think, involving Capitol pages, the usually high school kids that work at the Capitol. And then if you ever get a chance, look up Wilbur Mills in 1970, I want to say 1973 or thereabouts. Look up Wilbur Mills and Fanny Fox, the Argentinian firecracker. Okay, he was the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee in the House of Representatives, and it was called the Tidal Basin Incident because he was cheating on his wife with this dancer, I guess, known as Fanny Fox, Fanne, I think it was spelled. Did you find it? Yeah, you did. That's it. And just that one incident, Wilbur Mills was one of the most powerful people in Congress. He was chair of the Ways and Means Committee of the House, which is basically the revenue-raising committee, maybe the most powerful committee in the House. This one incident happened, and he was finished. Okay. There was another guy named Wayne Hayes who had a quote-unquote secretary on his payroll, and she was known as the secretary that couldn't type. Okay. And he was forced out, and he was one of the most powerful people in Congress. And so we've gone from that to this situation where we've got millions of pages, literally millions of pages of documents, and probably hundreds or thousands of people. Now, I mean, a lot of them are business leaders and private individuals, and that's bad enough. But you have a number of government officials, government people who are or have been in positions of power on all sides of the spectrum, frankly. And I don't think we've seen anybody resign or driven from office, certainly not anybody of any power. I'm sorry? Prince Andrew, okay. Prince Andrew in Great Britain. And unrelated to Jeffrey Epstein, but we saw Matt Gaetz being withdrawn from Attorney General consideration. But that was a completely separate investigation.
But he's not exactly disgraced. He's still like...
Yeah, and that's another thing, is that's exactly right. He's not exactly disgraced. So go ahead. I didn't mean to hog the conversation.
You're fine. There was 2 points I wanted to say. It was one was continuing what you were kind of going with about how, again, this should be a way bigger deal. Like, people should be forced, or at least there should be a lot more pressure on resignations or arrest or something like this right now, because Watergate, I'm not gonna act like Watergate wasn't a big deal. It was a big deal, but the level that Watergate was, and the things we're seeing right now, and Nixon nearly got impeached, and then he had to resign over how much pressure he was facing. That was a big deal, but the thing that's happening now, I would say, is way worse than Watergate, and people are still just continuing on their day, like, yeah, it is what it is. And that shouldn't be happening. Or with Bill Clinton with Lewinsky. Like, that was another big deal, but people were acting like that was going to be the end of the world. And we're seeing something that, again, is way worse. Still nothing happening. And one other thing I want to say is, I wonder how many of the people, is just a complete 180, but is about how many people in the files, though, actually knew what was happening. Because there's a part of me that wants to know, like, is everyone in the files, did everyone know exactly what was happening? Or is it, like, very possible that a lot of people who are named in it were just simply doing it for, like, business stuff and didn't actually know a lot of stuff that's going on?
Yeah, one point of clarification here, in all fairness, is that these FBI files are not verified. They contain all sorts of leaks and covert information, and
open to lines that anybody could have really.
Yeah, they're so when you hear about an accusation in there, that does not mean it literally actually happened. That does not mean they have the proof. In fairness to everybody, that's the case. But I think this gets back to what you were saying before, in that there's just so much stuff that any individual just gets drowned out in the ocean of information. Do you want to?
Well, I wonder if, like, not knowing and, like, just all of that is on purpose. I mean, it probably is, because I think it does, like, desensitize a lot. Like, when you're thinking about it, you're like, oh, well, is this even, like, true? Like, what do they know? And I think that's, like, a lot of why it is so desensitized right now in the media and just in general, because, I mean, we don't know what's true, and I wish that, like, when they were released, it was, like, there were divisions between, like, what is, like, he said, she said, or, like, actually, like, information.
Yeah.
Another issue with, like, the unsureness, or unsure, English, of it all, the uncertainty,
There you go.
thank you, is the fact that, like, it's really hard to prosecute sex crimes. I mean, you see it, like, all the time, like, where people will have to settle in court, like, during the Me Too movement, because, like, it's, especially with, like, past sex crimes, like, it happened on an island. There was no, like, rape kits to, like, get evidence. A lot of these people are going to end up walking free, and I don't know if we have, like, we have to, like, use the court of public opinion to, like, have an input, because there's going to be a lot of stuff that actually doesn't get prosecuted because they physically can't, the way our courts work, innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, to go off of that, I was trying to do some understanding, because I feel like, well, first of all, in 2008, I was 4, so I hope I didn't care about what was happening on Epstein Island. But, like, until that maybe, like, Netflix documentary came out in 2019, I feel like that got a lot more people to pay attention, or just his general conviction in 2019, yes, but, like, the documentary making such a horrible thing palatable for a lot of people to like understand and get mad about and whatever. So I was trying to get like, why did Epstein, because what was also included in this recent dump was that Palm Beach officials kind of knew that this was going on back in 2008. They had like dozens of pictures and witnesses that could prove dozens of victims, I should say, and they weren't gone after because of like just the difficulty in going after them. I found that Alexander Acosta at the time was the U.S. attorney down in South Florida that was handling it. He feared that the trial might result in an acquittal due to victim credibility issues, Epstein's high-powered defense, and then, I thought this was interesting, jury sympathy for his wealth and status. And so he therefore opted for the guaranteed but really minimal jail time that he ended up facing down there in 2008. And so the investigators were, I guess, you know, when things start to get serious and people have to care, DeSantis put in an investigation in 2019 to kind of see if there was any wrongdoing within this department, or if it really was, if there just wasn't enough to get them on this, or get him on this, and his associates acting like this as well. But it was really more like nobody could be accused of wrongdoing in the investigation, only like poor judgment. So I thought that was some interesting context that just adds to like, if it was already complicated then, and also they knew about stuff in 2004. I'm not surprised that it takes 4 years to build a case, but it, you know, to think of 2004 to now, that's as old as a lot of us are in this room. So yeah, it seems like it's really an extended scandal, and I just wonder if it'll have any different implications than maybe some of these other ones that you mentioned.
Build.
Behind you.
Oh, okay, okay. Building off of that, yeah, I'm, and please forgive me for talking about this in a sort of strategic or analytical way, because it's obviously far more important than that. But I do think that Epstein's operating idea was to build so many connections with so many important people that it would sort of insulate him from this. And of course, what happened eventually was sort of exactly the opposite. He got brought down, and now all this information is coming out, and you've got, you know, everything from media people and celebrities to royalty and political figures, from, you know, the Prince Andrew and Donald Trump and Woody Allen and the Clintons and all of these people being exposed now as having contact. And again, in all fairness, the fact that their names are there doesn't mean they necessarily did anything wrong, but it certainly doesn't help under the circumstances. But yeah, I think this is something that kind of, he built up this sort of wall of power around him, thinking probably that it would insulate him, and eventually it just kind of, I don't know what the word is, but kind of inverted and swallowed him up, really, and is now swallowing up others. You want to, yeah.
Yeah, not to give credit to the man or anything, like he deserves to be where he is right now, but he kind of did it very smartly, like built the whole thing up with people being able to be the borders around him, and then also creating, like he said, like thousands of people, so that you can't really prosecute all of them, or there's no like right way to do that. But also just like the verbiage he used in a lot of the emails. I know we've all seen like the pizza thing going around. It's like, does anybody have any idea what that, I know there's like theories about what that's alluding to, but I mean,
I was literally going to say the only thing that I can think of, and it was like years ago, I heard the Pizzagate conspiracy.
Yeah.
I was way too young to really even, I had no understanding what politics really meant, so I come across it, and I remember being so disturbed by it, but like the premise of it, it's like it's a coding for just like child sex trafficking terms, describe victims and stuff like that. That's the most, I guess, the closest theory.
That was a conspiracy theory involving a pizza parlor in Washington, D.C. The idea was somehow that the Clintons were running this sex trafficking thing in the basement of that. And there was a guy who actually traveled to Washington, D.C. with a rifle ready to shoot up people in there because he was so outraged at it. And it turned out the pizza place, first of all, nothing was going on there. Second, the place didn't even have a basement.
No.
So it was pure conspiracy theory, but that gave birth to this idea that somehow pizza is associated with these horrible activities.
I just wonder like how that like if pizza
I think
existed before that theory.
That was about a decade ago. I think what that does is, if nothing else, is it puts it in our consciousness.
Yeah.
Okay, and with some who might have ulterior motives, that's a deliberate strategy. Okay, yeah, you want to?
If I can like revert back to kind of like the how closely we worked together and like that installation that you tried to build, I kind of viewed it in a different way. It's like it kind of felt like it's like if I'm going down, I'm bringing all of y'all down with me. You know, that's the way that I saw it, and I'm not as knowledgeable on the files as everybody else is because it kind of really upset me. So I kind of try to like stay away from reading it. I only saw like the really big things like on social medias, but that's kind of what I think from it.
That's valid. I think it's a lot easier, honestly, to sit here and talk about it than actually sit down and go home and look at the pictures. Like, it gets really, really disturbing really fast. To add to that, I think part of the insulation for me is he gave like a big chunk of like maybe what the population would deem credible people plausible deniability, so that then they can sit there and be like, what they're doing, we had no idea that this all was going on, and then everybody can still point to the few bad apples that did know what was going on. So I think it is all very, very built in and intentional. But I guess that's like the longest running Epstein conspiracy, possibly.
Okay, I want a kind of a technical thing here. We do have somebody viewing online, and we do take questions and comments from people online. There's not one specific here, but if that person is still viewing, please post again so that we do know that you are there. And if you do have a comment or a question, please do so. And right now that'd be our only viewer, but if anybody else is viewing, please feel free to do that too. And if you're ever viewing online while we're doing this, feel free to do that as well. Okay, yes, that person is still with us. So, Avery, why don't you?
So I was thinking about what the immediate consequences would be of this new batch, and I saw that the former ambassador from the UK to the United States, he was also a member of the House of Lords, and he recently stepped down after the batch came out. So I thought that was interesting that he just immediately stepped down after the batch came out. Now they say in the press that the police there's possible investigations into his activity with Jeffrey Epstein, but like everything, how far that's going to go because of all the other famous people that are involved.
I want to continue off of that too, that the NFL came out too that they're going to be investigating the Giants owner because he got caught doing a bunch of things too, and apparently he's the biggest name that I've seen that is like, I wouldn't say confirmed, but has the closest ties with Epstein. But there's a bunch of other NFL owners that also are linked in the names, and I don't believe this one necessarily, but it's with Russell Wilson, who kind of had some ties with they said that he might have tried buying one of his jets or something like that, but then Russell Wilson came out saying like, that was not me, that was something else. So I'm gonna take it with a grain of salt, but there's also potentially a lot of sports accusations too going on in this. But one thing I also wanted to go back to was the Pizzagate type thing too, is that in a lot of the emails they keep referring to pizza and grape juice. There is a constant flood of emails that you can find that say the term pizza and grape juice, and like with people who are ordering something. And I do know that at least when they say cheese pizza, it's usually termed to be for CP, which is then that. So a lot of people are connecting that pizza also means that it's children or videos or stuff like that. And there's also there's just too many coincidences of why do they keep referring to the thing of oh, this person's gonna be buying pizza and grape juice. They keep saying it. And also another one is that there was a person, I forget who exactly it was. I want to say maybe it was an ambassador or a diplomat who said they needed to go to multiple pizza shops across the Northeast. And he says, I've never done this before. This is the first time I've done this, going to a pizza place 3 different times in a day. That's just too much, man. It's just, maybe, I'm not going full conspiracy, but that's a little much, man. It's a little concerning. And behind you.
I know. I completely agree. Like, whether it's as nefarious as we're thinking or not, it's still said enough, or it's still weird enough for it to be looked at. And it kind of goes back to how, like, Nixon and Watergate, like how much it caused, like, and how much investigation there was. Like, why isn't there, like, nearly as much as that, like, right now with this? And it kind of makes me wonder, like, are there certain ties or certain amounts of power that we don't even know about? I mean, you know, Trump's still sitting up there in office, and I don't know. It's just kind of weird, like no one's receiving certain punishment when, even though nothing's been proven, it's still so much, I think, to at least be investigated or to at least be considered. And it's odd that it's not jumped upon, like things in the past happened that were far less nefarious.
Okay.
I just want to take a moment to dog on Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche for a minute. The deadline for releasing these files was like so long ago.
December 19th.
December 19th. And they kept saying that they needed to review the files and to make appropriate redactions. Meanwhile, they left Epstein's password to his email. Someone logged into his email using that. It's like I don't understand what they were doing for those few months. Like, this is kind of the byproduct of like firing a bunch of staff.
It's
and then
incompetence, that's all it is.
yeah, so I just wanted to dog on them for a little bit. And I also want to pose the question, did Epstein kill himself?
That's a whole other thing. Why don't we go there and then we'll go over to you.
I was also gonna throw out some like crazy stuff. I mean, considering like the fact we talk about like he hasn't been punished, or he hadn't really been punished. There's a lot of people who kind of like slipped under the rug. Is he foreign intelligence or American intelligence? Is that a real possibility if you think that? I mean, I personally think maybe.
One quick thing, again, if our online person is still there, if you want faculty credit, if you could just add a faculty name to your post there, I'm assuming that's your name there, I will contact that faculty member. Okay, over to our other
Back to what you said with like the really like shoddiness that they did with the kind of redactions, like the files and stuff like that. I saw it on a couple of posts on Instagram, but I know, especially earlier when they released the first batch of files, you could go into some of the documents and you could still highlight them and you could post them into the doc, and you could see what they were saying. You know?
Oh yeah. Some of the original ones you could.
They used the black
de-redact,
highlighter instead of like a redact tool on
Yeah.
Adobe because they got rid of their Adobe contract.
That
Elon Musk.
to me, that's reminiscent of the Iran-Contra scandal during the Reagan administration. Well, by the way, I suppose people should see me while I'm talking here. Only fair enough. The Iran-Contra scandal during the Reagan administration, where there were memos and emails going back and forth. This is back in the 80s, the very early days of this kind of communication. And this is with Oliver North and
Ollie North.
that. Yeah, exactly. And they were deleting files, et cetera, and they did not know at that time that deleted files could be recovered. They thought back then you delete files and they're gone forever and there's no trace of them, but forensic investigators know that you can actually reconstruct many files because they're not actually deleted, just the location is erased, but you can actually go onto a disk and find them. And so it's the lack of technical knowledge of the people involved that allows recovery of information that is being hidden. So yeah.
Okay, to answer your question about did Epstein kill himself or all of this, I think everyone can kind of agree that no, that he did not kill himself. He was most likely murdered. But I'm gonna go full, just schizo real quick and just say
Do it.
that maybe he is still alive. Because one thing, I need you to.
I saw it.
Yeah, some people, I know that some of you probably see this on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok or something, but there was something in the files of someone posting a 4chan post the day that Epstein supposedly died. And it was a guy who was working at the prison unit, whatever the hell it was, and he was working there, and he said an unmarked vehicle came in, and someone came in to wheel out Epstein in a wheelchair, handcuffed into the back of the car, while someone else took his place, and these guys were all wearing green uniforms. He says, I don't know what's going on, but I'm just saying this. And it'd be one thing if it was, again, if this was just some random guy just wanting attention like that, it's one thing. But it's the fact that soon after this, the New York district attorney put a massive investigation trying to find out who this person was, getting sources from Apple, from his internet provider, from all of other things to find out who this guy was. They found out who he was, and I don't think anyone actually knows what happened to this guy. There's nothing that is told about if he's still alive, but we found out the guy's name. He did work there. He did report this, and also just another coincidence type thing. Someone also, I think it was a week after Epstein supposedly died, that someone flew a drone over the island and caught someone talking to a groundskeeper who, again, take this with a massive grain of salt, looked awfully like Epstein. Same type of hair colors, same type of build, same type of outfits that he wears. And as soon as they heard the drone, he immediately swapped underneath the golf cart to hide his identity, and then the drone flew away. So, again, is he alive? I honestly don't even know anymore. I feel like I'm losing my mind at this point, being I thought that oh yeah, he just got murdered by the government. Now I'm thinking oh, he's probably, God only knows where he's at now, just behind the shadows, probably still alive. I don't know, but it's just something that, with all this stuff that the files keep showing, it's I'm really starting to lean to the side that maybe he's still alive, which is something I never thought I was going to say a year ago.
Maybe Elvis Presley was involved in all that.
No, I don't know, man. At this point, it's so schizophrenic at this point. I don't know.
Go ahead, you wanted to say something?
I want to go back to the redactions. I do think it's weird that it's taken so long to be able to release these files, especially with all the redactions of Trump's names and specific things like that. But also with the most recent batch, certain things were redacted, but then like men's faces and stuff like that who were abusers. And then I know there's a specific picture of a naked victim kneeling in front of a cross. That her entire body, that entire photo was fully in the files without any kind of redactions. So I think it is weird what they are picking and choosing to take out and leave it. It seems very intentional.
Very disturbing that some of the victims are being, in a literal sense, exposed, while some of the at least abusers are being protected.
And then people's names.
And by the way, some of the I have seen some of the blacked out images were so obviously particular people that it was kind of silly to black out those images. So who's next? Who else? Yeah, go ahead.
I've dogged on the Republican administration. It's time for me to dog on the Democrats for a bit. So Kamala Harris did an interview some time ago where she said that her and Joe Biden didn't want to pressure the DOJ to release any information about the Epstein files because they wanted the DOJ to maintain its independence while Donald Trump is doing quite the opposite. And a lot of people were like, yeah, that's a good answer for why we shouldn't have released it back then. But now it's come to light that there is so much information in these files and so much blatant abuse that's happened. I don't find that to be a good answer for why they shouldn't have been released under their administration. So Epstein's plan kind of did work. I mean, he built himself a wall. Nobody said anything. I mean, now they're being forced out because we've lost complete confidence in the system that, Thomas Massey had to introduce the bill. Someone else co-sponsored, Ro Khanna. Yeah. And that was what forced the release because we had zero trust in the system to kind of take on these matters themselves, that we now have to use, like what was mentioned, the court of public opinion instead of an actual court. So here's my my fairness to both sides.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I mean, I guess this is kind of what somebody said earlier, what we were saying put together, is I think we're talking about how this, like, people going after these higher up people in the, like, the criminal justice world, I guess. I don't know how to say it. But I don't know how many times, because I didn't pay attention then, because I was an ignorant high schooler. How many times did they go after Biden and Trump in just that 4-year stint? You know, like trying to get them to, like, suing them, taking them to court, trying to get them to say that they did this or they did that, and nothing came out of it. Because, like, I remember at least 4 or 5 different times they were talking about Trump during just that 4-year stint.
Oh, wait, we got over here? Yeah.
Just kind of tying back into, trusting the courts and everything. I'm trying to think of, like, what this could hold in the future for, like, other victims of similar natures, crimes of a sexual nature. It does make me wonder, like, what's actually in hold for them. I've done a research whenever I was in high school about crimes that involve, like, rape, stuff like that, stuff that are, like, really hard for society to take in. And there was already a stigma on it. So just seeing that these files aren't getting the attention that they need, what's that going to do to future victims who face stuff like this? Are they going to, face the consequences of, basically not getting the justice they deserve? Is it going to force more victims into remaining silent, thinking, oh, well, we had this major case happen and we still got no justice at all? Like, what does that say as a country to the people we're supposed to protect and give a voice to whenever they have been so deliberately silent by people that we have held at a higher level than ourselves?
I think sometimes because we don't want to, like, say anything too far, like accusing somebody, but we also all know deep down that these victims deserve better. And I think that's where our, like, kind of justice system, it's there for a reason. It's worked for a long time, but it's become too easy for a big majority of people to say innocent until proven guilty. And if nobody's proven guilty, or if they're killing themselves, as Ryan is implying, then it certainly is terrifying for future victims. And we're not completely. I'm not going to sit here and say that I think some massive justice is going to come out of this case. Unfortunately, I don't see that being the case. But we aren't done with these House committee hearings. I don't think it's totally over yet. If there's a statute on limitations on child sex trafficking, I should get rid of that immediately. That's horrible. So I don't think it's completely over, and I do think the court of public opinion could get us far enough if it's enough pressure. But so far, apparently it's not, or it's the wrong kind of pressure.
Here.
I do think this will, like, set a precedent for how the court system is going to handle kind of sex trafficking and rape cases. But I think it is, like, important to identify the fact that we do have a, like, current sitting president that had 27 different rape allegations against him, and how that kind of interferes with all of this as well. Like, if our own president can't be held to those higher standards of being convicted of his crimes for sex, like for raping people, then how can we expect, like, all of these other people empowered to be convicted of their crimes as well?
So yeah, actually, that as we get to the last 10 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes of our discussion, I usually like to turn things towards the future. Where do you think all of this is going to go? I'm not forcing you to discuss that, but where do you all think generally this is going to go? What's going to happen?
Kind of more of a question about our future is, like, do you think this will, like, ever lead to us reaching, like, some sort of class consciousness? This idea that there is a upper majority that get to do whatever they want. They get to use the world as their playground. They get to destroy the environment. They get to commit sex crimes. They get to murder. They get to do whatever they want. And us, the masses, have to sit back and watch? Will we ever reach a level of class consciousness where we will actually do something about it?
Well, I will say one thing. First of all, income inequality is at the highest it's been in a century or more. And I have often heard people, I've heard students here over the years sort of, I want to say wax nostalgically, but they weren't around, but talk about the 1950s as a time that they would like to go back to. That's great if you're white, and if you're male, maybe not otherwise, but the odd thing about that is that was a point in time when income inequality was probably at its just about lowest. And so that sort of touches on what you're getting at, is that there's this whole class of people that really have arisen over the last, I would say, 30 to 40 years. The richest of the rich in the 1970s and into the 1980s pale in comparison to Elon Musk, for example, who's about to become the world's first trillionaire. And there are others who are not that far behind. So I think that's the situation that you're getting at basically there. We have one. Our online discussant says bringing light could hypothetically allow victims to feel seen and encouraged to seek justice. Oh, wait a minute. I agree that the outcome of the release of the files may be minimal, but I think it should be prioritized to being awareness to the victims and the severity of their experiences. So much abuse goes unknown, but bringing light could hypothetically allow victims to feel seen and encouraged to seek justice. That's what our online discussion said.
It's important to break the cycle of abuse that has been set up over the cycle of abuse towards women has been something that's been going on since human society has been created. So to try and break that cycle of abuse is something that's very important.
To go back to what you were originally saying about you maybe sort of bring back some sort of like class consciousness, is throughout pretty much most of history, but definitely during the modern times, people have been trying to, again, we see this, one of the best examples you can use is that after the Civil War, poor whites and poor African Americans were seen, they saw each other as equals because they both were poor. And they saw that like a lot of them were like, I'm not saying that like there wasn't racism, but there was a lot of people who did see themselves as like, we both are poor on this side. But that a large amount of the rich after the Civil War promoted the idea that white people are superior and that they deserve to, like they're not to you. So that to get them away from uniting, to not say overthrow, but at least try to come together to provide a better future for themselves, to get the rich from having a monopoly over everything. But right now we're seeing the same sort of thing where today that we're so separated by left and right that it kind of seems like the world is trying to push that so we ignore the other problems happening, that, oh, I hate this person not because of their because of so many other things, but we're all in the same boat a lot of times. A lot of us here are probably all in the same sort of situation where that, but we're all kind of separate in the sense of with race, with sex, with wages, and with our just our class in general. That these people are sitting at the top promoting these ideas, saying that like, yeah, we need to keep these people separate. But I'm starting to see even online too. Again, it's online, so it's not in reality, but at least online, I'm seeing people on the left and right coming together and saying, this is abhorrent. We can't let this stand. Like, yeah, we might not agree politically, but we can come together and see that our country is our country at minimum is being ruled by these pedophilic elites. We need to come together and get rid of these people. This is horrible. Is it going to get to the point where we might reach a tipping point where enough people might see that and realize that like we need to fix this problem? I would love to see it. I don't know if it will happen, but I personally am kind of optimistic, thinking in the sense that I think this might be the turning point where people might see this as being, we need to change.
Let's hope. Go ahead.
I'm like absolutely bouncing off of what you said, and this is me being really helpful. But I think that we've gotten to a point, especially with the release of all these files, is us as a people, I think we've kind of stopped choosing sides of far left, far right. Unless you're absolutely far left and absolutely far right, everybody has kind of come together to this consensus of like what the state of our country has come to in like the in after like the release of these files, you know. So is that going to lead to a it to change in like our party system in the future? Is that going to lead to change in our leadership in the future, or are we still going to let these people who a lot of people have been idolizing for this country's history continue to control and do things the way that they want to do it?
Okay.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate for like 2 seconds. I think it's that saying that without acknowledging the fact that these people, these elites in control, who do all of these crimes and all of this terrible stuff, they have the money to control what happens, and especially when you have Trump, who's putting people in governmental offices that have no politic backgrounds whatsoever, who literally just have money. Like, I think it's not to take away your hope, but it's pretty hopeless, like, to ask that the people who control quite literally everything, like, stop doing that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, over here we have.
I'd like to add on to what you said. I definitely agree that there should be limitations and like requirements for being a political leader, especially in a nation that is so split by corruption of the left and the right. And more or less, especially with recent events that have happened, I feel like now it's more important to view it as like just a simple right and wrong. And like that on what he said as well, that
we'll get back to you.
Okay.
Promise.
I'm gonna directly counter you. I think all we can do is hope. We're here having this conversation, acknowledging the wrongs of our past, acknowledging the mistakes that have been made, and the issues that we have. And that's the first step in the right direction to making good policy, to holding people accountable. And so I think looking at our peers, we should be hopeful for the future that we can build and we can create, and hold these monsters accountable for the crimes that they've done.
Do you want to finish up?
And his idea of like of political parties. I definitely think that there should be a change with political parties. To quote the founding fathers back in the way days of old, they warned what would happen if the political parties were to split. I think it was George Washington who quoted that. And in my personal opinion, I feel like it would be good to have a system that's kind of like the United Kingdom's parliament system, where it's just like one unified party that can acknowledge the issues of both sides and make both sides happy. And what you said too, I do think that it's ultimately up to hope, and depending on what people are willing to go to do, like maybe this is something that causes a civil war between parties to break out, or just a mass protest or riots of the people wanting to be heard. I definitely feel like that is a possibility, and I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to it, because justice is something that this nation needs more of, especially with how unfair sentences can be. I mean, like, take Diddy, for example. You all remember how everyone was saying, like, oh, everyone thinks that he should get life in prison, but ultimately he got, like, what, only 4 years in prison? Yeah. I definitely think that the justice system should be more fair with its sentencing and, like, more appropriate to, like, the type of crime you're being sentenced for.
All right, why don't you close us out?
Alright, thank you guys for coming. We'll be back here at noon next Wednesday to discuss a new topic. It'll be posted on our Instagram, UNG PSSA. follow us. If you want to join the group me, you can come here and ask me now. If you came in late and didn't get a chance to check in on the app, I would love if you came up and I could do that for you. Other than that, I hope you have a great day.
Gotta bring back the anti-Masons.
Oh,
Anti-Masons.
Right.